What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Jackal Gold Games. And in this video, I'm going to be doing something different, a console review and overall thoughts on a console, and that's going to be the PlayStation 4. So I have the PlayStation 4. This is the PS4 Slim, 8th generation console. Also have a controller for it. I'm going to tell you what I think of this system, some of the games I own and I like on it, my overall opinion about the PS4. Now, when it came to the 8th generation, the console I played in the 7th generation was Xbox 360. That was the main thing I liked. I loved the exclusives. I switched from PS2 in the 6th generation to 360. But going into 8th gen, I did want Xbox One originally because of Dead Rising 3, but eventually Xbox One, when I did experience it, Dead Rising 3 eventually didn't hold up after a while. Gears games were not as good as they used to be, and just in general, I didn't like it as much as 360, and I started to play the PS4 more and more. And there were certain games which I'll get to that are on PS4 that weren't on Xbox One that I enjoyed playing. And I overall played this more, and this was more my main console in the 8th generation. So I went with this in the 8th generation mostly compared to 7th generation. So my overall opinion of the PlayStation 4. Let's talk about the console first. So the console itself, at least the PS4 Slim design, I don't mind. The only thing that's stupid is that when you hook this up to your TV, you have to like turn it around and plug things in because of the way they made it. So you can't just know what you're plugging into. You have to pull it out or do this to plug it in. Don't like that. But other than that, I think it's a good design. It's nice that most of it isn't a whatever finish that is the Xbox One and certain consoles have, where you can get fingerprints all over it. So nice design. You got your disk drive, you put your disk in. I like physical media, that's my favorite. You have the power button, you have the eject button, then you have a plug-in for USB to charge your controller, and there's also, I think, storage plugins as well, or USB storage plugins. So you have your power, you put the power in, which it's something like this. This is kind of the cord. I don't know if it's the exact cord because these look kind of like TV cords, but this is sort of the cord you use to plug it in. Very convenient because a lot of, well, I think I'm just getting that mixed up with, am I getting that mixed with Xbox? I don't know. I remember Adam Corlick said something about power cables. I can't remember if it was the PlayStation or Xbox he talked about, but this is a cord I think is convenient, I think. So it goes into the power output, use that, and then, like I said, I don't know if that's the exact cord, but it's just an example of it. And then you have the HDMI plug-in where you put HDMI in, and you have a aux, which I never used. You have a LAN, so if you want to put your Ethernet cable in to have better internet service. And yeah, so overall, it is a nice looking system, and it has some good features and things you can plug in and stuff. Now, the system itself overall, I do like. I think the UI interface on the PS4 is great. I do like it a lot. It's really nice. It's simple. I like it more than the Xbox One interface. I feel like it's just easier, to be honest. You can put your games in categories, which is really nice. And it's it's not the most powerful machine ever because when we went from 7th to 8th gen, they did refreshes for PS4 and Xbox One, which I never had the PS4 Pro, but they did those because the systems, from what I heard, had like these Jaguar cores and they weren't as powerful. So not every game was 1080p and 60 FPS, so there was that problem. But for the most part, you could, I think, still have fun with the PS4 because while it's nice to have graphics in 60 FPS, and I would love for that to be the standard across the board. Don't get me wrong, but you can kind of put that stuff to the back of your head, at least for me, because the main thing you play games for is to have fun, and that's the main reason I play games. Now, one of the criticisms I would give the PlayStation 4 and the biggest issue with the console is it has like no backwards compatibility whatsoever. You can't play PS3 games on this, you can't play PS2 games on this, or PS1 games. Now, partially, I think it's because of the way Sony did things in 7th Gen, where their PS3 had great backwards compatibility, but it was like $600, and it kind of failed in their face, unfortunately, and it made them make different decisions in 8th Gen and have to sell the console at a certain cost, and they had to get rid of certain features. But at the same time, it's just a shame that the PlayStation 4 has no kind of backwards compatibility, and they didn't even circumvent that with PS5 besides just playing these games. Now you can get digital PS2 games and some digital PS1 games, but that's not 100% cool because eventually you're not going to be able to access those games. Like for example, I was playing the Wii recently and I connected to the internet, the Wii store is no longer up. So that's what will eventually happen at the PS4 store in given time, unless you already bought those games, I guess, if they don't take your access away from them. So that's the big criticism I would give the PS4. Wish it had better backwards compatibility, that's for sure. Aside from the digital thing, I like the trophy system. I think it's pretty cool getting the trophies in games. I do like it. You get platinum trophies, silver, gold, bronze trophies. Very fun system, making your account. The avatars there are pretty nice. You make your accounts pretty cool. You have friends you can add on PS4. You got online play. You got party chat. And I heard their online infrastructure was better on here than PS3 because I never had a PS3. So the store itself works pretty well with the games and DLC and all that stuff on there, and your friends list. You can message them. The features on there are pretty cool. You also can use different apps on here like Netflix and Tubi and a bunch of movie stuff. You can watch YouTube on here, which is something I did a lot. You can listen to music on here. I Movies work on here. You can watch movies and Blu-rays on here, which I have done before. The only thing that's stupid is that you have to connect to the internet just once to do a DRM check-in to then watch the movies. I think that's dumb, in my opinion. I don't know why it's made that way, at least for Blu-ray. I don't know if it's the same way for DVD, but overall, the system itself, I think, is pretty good. Now, I'm going to talk about the next thing, which is the controller. So I think the PS4 controller is actually really nice. I actually think I haven't played the PS5 yet, but I think this is Sony's best controller in my opinion because while I did like the PS2 system and I like the PSP handheld, one of my problems with the PlayStation 2 controller, and it probably would be an issue if I had a PS3, is the controller is just too small, even these days. That's the only thing I don't like about it. I prefer my controllers to be a little bigger in my hands. What I like about the PS4 controller, the DualShock 4, is it's much bigger in your hands compared to the PS2 controller and PS3 controller. Fits in your hands real nice. It's very comfortable. I don't mind that you can recharge the controller, but some people had issues with that because what if the battery dies out or if something goes wrong? And I guess I used to be like that never happens, but it kind of can, to be honest, because I have another controller that's a white one and it won't really charge anymore right here. It has a short in it. So they do have a point about that, but it hasn't happened with this one or the blue controller I have. Now, this controller did take a crap on me. I've had it for years. There's a other one I have that a nice YouTuber around here named Critical Gamer, aka Gamer Rat. He did send me that, so I don't really use this one anymore. But this is just for review purposes. Now, I could see that maybe being a deal breaker for some people. For the most part, I like the rechargeable battery. Realistically, I think we should just have an option for wired controllers because I didn't really have an issue with wired controllers because you can use a controller all the time if you want. The battery life could be better on these controllers, though. It's not the longest battery life ever. I think it could be a lot longer, in my opinion. It's only like 4 or 5 hours, something like that, or 6 hours, something. But if you keep it plugged in all the time, you can use it with the USB. Now, as for the controller itself, the analog sticks are nice. They feel really good. I like them. You got these. Now, this looks a little different than the base PS4 controller because it's the slim model, I'm assuming. But the analog sticks are nice. I like them. You have the PlayStation button, which you press this to turn it on, and now it's trying to turn on. You press this to turn the system on, turn the controller on. You have your touchpad, which is a new feature where this is used in a lot of games where you hit the touchpad. Let me see if I can get the light bar off. Yeah, there we go. You have the options button, which is start, and then you have the share button, which kind of is a select button, but it's a share button where you can do live streams, which that's one of the nice things about PS4 is you can do live streams of games, which is really nice. I do like the live stream feature. You can capture footage, you can do screenshots of stuff in games and features like that. So the touchpad is cool. Start and select button's cool. They feel comfortable. D-pad's nice, feels comfortable, looks nice. I like the way the buttons look, the colors of like triangle green, and you got your pink and orange and blue. So cool colors. These buttons all feel really nice and they're pretty solid, so they're good. And then for the bumpers are real nice. They feel really good, very comfortable. I like the color, feel really nice. And then the triggers are nice. Definitely a step up from the previous PlayStation controller triggers. Instead of being kind of mushy, they're more like this. So nice triggers. So yeah, the controller itself overall is just really solid. Aside from the criticisms I mentioned of like the battery thing and how long it lasts, the controller itself works great. Definitely one of the best controllers that I would put up there, to be honest with you. Really good one. So yeah, and then yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but you have this plug-in right here where you plug it in and you turn the controller on with the system to charge it. Now, the only thing I'll say that is kind of dumb in my opinion is this shit. This light bar thing is stupid in my opinion because when you turn the controller on and the light bar is on, even if you go into the settings and dim it, it can kind of show up in your TV, and that bothers me, especially since I have OCD. That really bothers me. I hate the fact that they put that there. They should have put that somewhere else. So you can get a sticker for it and block it. You can dim it, and that kind of helps. But I don't know why they put that right there. I just think that's dumb. That's the only thing I think is stupid. I think they could have did that differently. Hopefully, the PS5 controller, I think from what I've seen, doesn't do that. But that turns on. There's different colors sometimes that show up. Like I think if you're in danger in some games, it's red, which is kind of cool. I think there's some motion type controls with this too, with the touchpad. Like you can use as a cursor, which is pretty cool. But and then you also have this speaker function right here, where some games you can enable in the settings to have the game speak through the speaker. Like if I remember Resident Evil 2 Remake was one of the main ones I can remember, where if you unlock those Timu locks, it plays a sound through this. If you make the setting that way, and RE4 Remake had the same thing as well, was Hunnigan's Call. So that is what I think of the controller itself. Pretty solid. As for the games, I'm going to get into some of the games I own. So I have games like Prototype Biohazard Bundle, which this is a remaster of Prototype 1 and 2, which it's a half-ass remaster from Activision because the games aren't even 60 FPS. This has went up in price actually, so I got it when it was 40 when it came out. Now Prototype 1, I don't know, to be honest. Like, I don't love the game. I personally prefer Prototype 2. That's what I like more. I just feel like Prototype 2 is way more fun. I like James Heller. I love how the game has more color. Prototype 2 just works for me better than Prototype 1. It's one of the video game sequels I prefer. So Prototype 2 is more the game I like personally. But yeah, I got games like this. I played this on PS4. I got all the trophies, platinum it, fun game. Well, mainly the second one I like the most. And I have other games like Dinosaurs 8 Extreme Legends Complete Edition, which is on PS3, but they also put it on PS4. Now, this is one of the games that wasn't on Xbox One, so this is going to be what I'm going to start getting into with some of the exclusives. So this wasn't on Xbox One. You couldn't play this on there. So this is a good game as well. All the new content, like Lubu's campaign, all the stuff they did with it. Pretty fun game. It was cool to play as on PS4, though I didn't play it as much on PS4 because I had it for 360 first, and I played it way more on there. But still played it on here, and I like the Lubu campaign and some of the stuff they did with it. And then another exclusive I have that wasn't on Xbox One. This is an amazing game in my opinion. Samurai Warrior Spirit of Sanada. This game is incredible. One of the best Samurai Warrior games. I would love to see them do this with Dynasty Warriors, like a Spirit of Cao Cao or something. This game was amazing. I had a blast playing this game. Just really good. Definitely one of the best Warriors games on PS4. One of the best Samurai Warriors games. Just awesome. I like the concept of it. It was a very fun game to play. I don't want to get too much in depth with all these games because it'll be like I'm reviewing the games, but it was just a really fun game. I like how the new characters like Masayuki Yukimura's dad and the different versions of Yukimura and like him being older with his beard, which you can see right there, which is really cool. And this is the best version of Yukimura. This version of Yukimura is a badass. Like someone on YouTube said, it's basically the Samurai Warriors version of like Lu Bu in terms of how cool they made him in this game. They made him a badass in this game. It's really cool. They gave him new charge attacks. Just a really good game. I enjoyed it. And this is something you can't get on Xbox One. So that's why I like PS4 more this generation because I'm a big fan of these Warriors games. The game also looks nice in the PS4 as well. Great visuals. And then I also have The Evil Within 2 as well, which I didn't like this as much as The Evil Within 1, to be honest with you. I just didn't think it was as good. It's one of those games that has a stupid disc uh, coming out of it. I hate that, but I just didn't like this as much as Evil Within 1. It changed a lot, and more open world, and just it's a lot to get into, but I didn't like it as much as Evil Within 1. And then I also have Resident Evil 3 Remake, which this remake does have issues like, it is too short in my opinion, and it could have more content, and they cut a lot of the stuff from the original RE3 and Extreme, some people would say. Nemesis was not as scary as Mr. X. Mr. X was scarier. I kind of compare it to this way, where Mr. X in RE2 Remake was Michael Myers, and Nemesis is Jason Voorhees in this one. It's kind of how I compare it. but he's got cool boss fights. I did still like the game. I like the voice acting. I like the visuals, and it was a fun remake to play. I still think it's a fun game to play. I just wish it was a little longer. I wish they actually had more costumes for Jill, especially some actual costumes for Carlos. And the mercenaries they didn't put in this, which was in the original. I never got around to playing Resident Evil Resistance because I didn't have PlayStation Plus, which that's something else I will mention. I forgot to mention. I think it's stupid that with the PlayStation 4 you have to pay to play online. That's dumb in my opinion. It wasn't like that with the PS3. Microsoft introduced that shit with the 360. And for those that want to try to defend it, I'm going to remind you the Steam PC online community, they get to have online play for free. The only thing they have to pay for is their internet service, like we all do. They don't have to have a fee for online play, whereas on PlayStation and Xbox, you do. I always thought that was stupid. So that is something I forgot to mention as a negative, but I did enjoy Resident Evil 3 Remake. I still thought it was a pretty good remake, honestly, and still really fun to play. There were some nice Resident Evil games on PS4, I will say that. It looks great visually, so I did enjoy this remake. And then I also have Strange Brigade, which is a pretty fun third-person shooter. I also eventually got the expansion pack it had, or DLC, with the extra characters, which is pretty cool. This was a fun third-person shooter game. I did enjoy this one a lot. I did like it a lot. It was pretty fun. I liked the sort of Egypt style and some of the enemies you fought, like this guy. It was a pretty fun game and really cool third-person shooter. It's an underrated game because I don't really hear a lot of people talk about this one. Really cool game. I like third-person shooters. This is another good game on the PS4. I also have Resident Evil Village, which is Resident Evil 8. This also came out on PS5, which I would eventually like to get the PS5 version if I ever get a PS5. But Resident Evil Village is a pretty fun game. I enjoy it. I think it's definitely a huge improvement over RE7. More enemy variety, more fun. I really enjoyed this game. I think some of the stuff in the story was kind of dumb, like Chris not telling Ethan what was going on. I thought that was stupid. And I can't think of other things, but it was a pretty fun game and a good sequel to RE7 because they increased the enemy variety. So this is another solid Resident Evil game. It's definitely worth getting on PS4. Really enjoyed playing this one. And then I also have Resident Evil 4 Remake, which is a pretty good remake. I did enjoy it. Not sure where I would rank it with the other remakes. Maybe I would have it the highest because I'm original RE4 I absolutely love. But Resident Evil 4 Remake, really good game. I do enjoy it a lot. It's a good remake of RE4, and it was fun to play, see what they did with it. It's another good Resident Evil game to get on PS4. This is also on PS5 as well, which I'd eventually like to get it on the PS5, but pretty good remake. I also have Resident Evil 2 Remake, which is a good remake of Resident Evil 2. The only thing that sucks is that the B and A and B scenarios they didn't do much with, which what they should have did is if you switch the scenarios around, Claire gets to meet Ada instead of Leon meeting Ada, and Leon has to deal with Chief Irons, and Claire has to deal with Ada. I don't know why they didn't do something like that. Huge missed opportunity, in my opinion, to make it different. So they could have did something different with that. They wasted characters like Ben, little stupid things like that. But other than that, it is still a pretty good remake, and I did enjoy Resident Evil 2 remake. It's pretty fun, and I did enjoy it a lot. So another solid title on the PS4 worth getting. And then I have a ton of Resident Evil games here because I do like the series a lot. Another Resident Evil game I have here is Resident Evil 7 Biohazard Gold Edition. So this is the version that has all the expansions. And I should eventually do an update video about this, but Resident Evil 7, this is interesting to talk about because on my main channel, Tackle Gold Kick, I actually did 2 rant videos on Resident Evil 7, technically 3 of another video I deleted, crapping all over this game. I'm like, this game sucks, screw this game, because it was a different approach for the Resident Evil series, and honestly, I had a pretty ignorant stance on the game, to be honest with you, because after playing the game, I do like the game, and I have had fun with it. I mean, it does have its issues. Like, I don't really care about Ethan, and I think the ship section with Mia is not all that great compared to the other parts in the game. There's not really a lot of enemy variety in the game, and there's some unskippable sections that are kind of annoying. But I still liked Resident Evil 7, and I would say I was wrong about it in a lot of cases. I should have just, from the beginning when the game came out, played it, gave it a chance, see what I thought of it, rather than just make rant videos crapping all over the game when I still could have tried it at least. Because I like Dynasty Warrior 6, and that did something different with the series. So I did end up liking this game despite some of the issues it has. So I was pretty wrong, and I disagree with the stance I took in those videos. I'd like to eventually do some updated videos, some way about that. But this is another good Resident Evil game. It also kind of brought the series back to horror and survival horror because Resident Evil after 4, they went for more action. I feel like 5 and 6 didn't really incorporate the RE4 style right. So this is another solid game on PS4. It's also 60 FPS, which is really nice, and 1080p, I believe. So another game I have I'm gonna talk about for the PS4 is Resident Evil Revelations 2. Originally had this on 360. I liked it. Decided to get it on PS4 because it's a better version. This is a really good game. This is a better version of RE4 compared to 5 and 6. I really enjoyed Resident Evil Revelations 2. A good sequel to Revelations 1 because it's improvement and a lot better. This is another game I really enjoyed on PS4, and it's another solid title that's really awesome as well. This is almost like a Resident Evil machine in a way because I got tons of Resident Evil games for it. I also have a remaster of one of my favorite games of all time, Resident Evil 4 for the PS4. This is an amazing game. It's nice on the PS4 because it's 1080p, 60 frames. Looks real nice on here. There's trophies. I just wish there was a platinum trophy. Definitely mostly the best version, best way to play Resident Evil 4. However, I have a few gripes with this, like the black tail pistol, the texture of it, the like whatever it is, like the white strip on it is covered up because they changed some of the textures. The laser gun you use when you hold it down or you beat professional mode, it don't make that cool noises on PS2, and that's kind of annoying. Ada's campaign separate ways. The cutscenes are in 480i, but then the rest of her campaign is in 1080p. I don't understand that. Maybe they just didn't have the source files for it. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know. But yeah, other than that, this was a good re-release, a good HD version of Resident Evil 4. But this is a phenomenal game. Something else that's worth playing on PS4. And I own so many versions of this game. I could buy Resident Evil 4 all day long. Like if they keep putting this out in every single new system, I will keep buying it because I just love the game that much. It's phenomenal. So great game. And then some other games I have, more remasters here. The PS4 had a lot of remasters in the 8th gen. Kind of needed because the backwards compatibility, while it was better on Xbox One, PS4, they didn't really have backwards compatibility, so the remasters kind of help with that, especially with a game like this, Dead Rising 1, which is an amazing game. It was cool to get it on PS4 because it was a 360 exclusive. And yeah, it's nice on PS4. It's 1080p, 60 frames. There's a few issues, like sometimes there's a little glitch in the weapons, and there's like mild censorship with some of the like cutouts and stuff. But for the most part, the PS4 version of Dead Rising 1 is really nice, so it's another remaster. I own a lot of good remasters to get on PS4, in my opinion. This game itself is amazing. I love Dead Rising 1. I have another remaster, and to me, this is one of the worst video game remasters I've ever played. This is why you should just keep your original versions to this day. Dead Rising 2, this is a good sequel, and it is nice having 1080p 60 frames in the PS4 version, but this remaster is garbage. And there's actually a crazy story I want to tell about how I got Dead Rising 2 on the PS4. An old ex-friend of mine that I'm not really friends with anymore, we walked from his house to GameStop, and it took us hours from daylight to nighttime because we both got our own version of Dead Rising 2 on PS4 so we could play a co-op game. And in the end, it's like it wasn't fully worth it because one, I'm not friends with that guy anymore and they changed compared to they used to be. And two, this is a horrible fucking remaster. This remaster sucks. It's got hair texture issues. It crashes all the time. It's even worse in co-op. And it's missing content technically because they didn't re-release Case Zero and Case West. So you also can't get the exclusive items that come through with Case Zero saved data. And while it does come with the DLC, which is nice, it's the worst version of Dead Rising 2 easily. Sometimes the voices are slowed down. They did a horrible job remastering this game. Definitely stick to the 360 version or the PS3 version if that one isn't glitchy as well. So I own this as well, but I don't recommend this. I heard they fixed it on Xbox One though, but they ain't fixed it on PS4. That's something else I own. I remember I got mad about it and threw it one time and I put a dent in it, but it's just because it's a crappy remaster, man. It deserves better. Hopefully in the future they could re-release that for a newer console and actually do it right. Another game I own is The Evil Within. This game is great. Personally, one of my favorite games on the PS4. I originally owned this for Xbox 360, and then I got it for PS4. This game is awesome. It's underrated. It's a great survival horror game. It gets a lot of hate. It got a mixed reception. But personally, I think it's an underrated game. I don't hate it as much as other people do. I love this game. It's a good survival horror game. It's a good evolution of like the Resident Evil 4 style because Shinji Mikami made this game. And this came out around the time when survival horror was not that big, or not big, but it was different. Resident Evil and Silent Hill were not in the traditional survival horror sense that they used to be, that a lot of people felt like. And I just felt like, this is one of the only survival horror games that came out around the time in 2014. You had Alien Isolation, which I never played, but you had this as well. This was kind of the closest survival horror around that time period. And I love The Evil Within. I like the story, the universe, the characters. I like the over-the-shoulder gameplay, the RE4 type style. It's a very challenging game. I enjoyed this game a lot, and I didn't like how the sequel changed so much compared to this. I always just got this vibe that they made The Evil Within 2 for people that didn't like The Evil Within 1. And I just feel like that's kind of true because there's a lot of people that love The Evil Within 2 but hated The Evil Within 1. Personally, I love The Evil Within 1. Definitely worth getting on PS4 if you like survival horror. Awesome game. Love this one a lot. The only thing I'll say is it could be a better performance because it still doesn't have a 60 FPS patch, even with backwards compatibility on PS5 and Xbox Series X. And it came out with the black bars on top and bottom, which now you can block out. So there is some issues like that, I will admit. But I heard that's because Shinji Mikami and Tingle Gameworks weren't fully used to the engine they were using. But still, I think it's a really awesome survival horror game. You got cool enemies like the box head guy, the keeper, which is really cool. So this is a great game. And another game I own, which is Samurai Warriors 5. Now, I was mad about Samurai Warriors 5 when it first came out. I didn't like what they were doing with the series, because it was a drastic change, a lot of characters cut, clones, different art style. After getting Samurai Warriors 5 and playing it, I did actually enjoy it on PS4. Now, would I put this over some of the better ones in the series like Spirit of Sound at SW2 and SW1? No. It does have a lot of issues. I did do a review of it. Maybe I'll eventually repost it on this channel, but despite those issues, I still did have a blast playing Summer Warriors 5. It runs pretty great on the PS4, it looks nice, and it was very fun to play. I always thought it was weird though they didn't put this out on PS5 too. It was only PS4. I just thought that was so strange to me. It's like this came out around the time the PS5 was already out. Like I don't get that, but it is a pretty fun game to play. But there's no Empires, there's no XL, so this is really all you're getting is Samurai Warriors 5 for PS4. So really good game though. Another good hack and slash game for the PS4. Yeah, I already opened the case, just making sure I did. And then I also own like, the Warriors Orochi games, Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate, Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate. Now, Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, I do like this game. It is a re-release of Warriors Orochi 3, which I did play a lot in Xbox 360. This is the newer version with extra content, some of the additions they released, so it's kind of a remaster. And I do enjoy the game. I did like it. It's a great Warriors Orochi game. It almost might be the best Warriors Orochi game, but the only thing that sucks about it is it was had some storage issues, so that's why there was a cutoff. But back to what I was saying, pretty good game. Just wish I had English dub. It kind of bothered me for a while. I didn't get the game at first on 360. I played it on 360 and played it on PS4. Another great hack and slash game to get on the PlayStation 4 system. So yeah, another good game. And then you also had, and this is the last one I'll talk about. I own other PS4 games, but I just wanted to go through some of the ones I own. But this is kind of a big part of my collection. But Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate, which is the ultimate version of Warriors Orochi 4. And, it adds new characters and stuff. Now, this don't have an English dub, much like 3, which sucks. And I do think this is the weakest Warriors Orochi game. It just wasn't as good as the other ones. There was no costumes in it. This was one of the first Warriors games. Now, this could be because of my OCD and me making new accounts and dropping them constantly, but after a while, this is the first Warriors game that I just dropped and stopped playing compared to any other Warriors game. That's never happened before. So I would say out of all the Warriors games I've played, this is my least favorite personally. It just didn't have that lasting power. I just didn't like it overall as much as the other ones. It just felt like a lesser version. I mean, it's cool to have SW4 characters, cool to have DW8 characters and hyper attacks, and it looks nice visually. There's a lot of color in it compared to Warriors Orochi 3, but it was just a lesser Warriors Orochi 3. It's more about the gods, which were pretty cool, but Orochi takes a backseat, and it's like what they should have did is made Orochi the villain again, or have Hunded be the villain and Orochi's involved in there somewhat. But Warriors 4, I still had fun with, playing through and experiencing some of it, but it's a lesser Warriors Orochi in my opinion. So, you know, yeah. Few other things that I forgot to mention for this PS4 review and some of the games I forgot to mention that I want to put in this video. Samurai Warriors 4 is another great game. It was on PS3, it was on PS4 as well. It was a great game in the series, great visuals. I think it was like the first or one of the first PS4 games I played. It was great, a lot of fun. It incorporated hyper attacks, a really cool game. I don't have it physically. I need to eventually get it physically. I just played it through my cousin's account. I also got Samurai Warriors 4 too digitally on my account, which I did have fun with that game, and Neo Masali's a cool character, but it's not as good as base SW4 for a few reasons, but I still did enjoy that game. I also have the remasters of Darksiders 1 and 2, which I enjoy Darksiders 1 more. I did have some fun with Darksiders 2 Remastered, but I prefer the first one over it. And then some of the big exclusives and a lot of the exclusives on PS4 I'm not really into, so that's why I didn't really comment on them much, or I don't have my collection. Like, I couldn't really get into Spider-Man PS4, wasn't really into the God of War reboot when I tried playing it. Wasn't really into The Last of Us, not my thing. Couldn't really get into Horizon Zero Dawn. So a lot of those like PS4 exclusives I'm not really into, so not my thing. I would like to try Detroit Become Human someday because I did like the style of the Walking Dead Telltale games. That's kind of what Detroit Become Human is. Days Gone, I was let down by it. I thought I'd be interested in it 'cause it's a zombie game, but I was bored with it. I traded it in, didn't really like it all that much. So, yeah, those are just a few more things I wanted to mention in this PS4 review video, specifically about games and stuff. And then one more thing I wanted to mention is something that is nice about PS4. I don't know if it was with the base version, at least with my Slim PS4, which is the difference with the Slim and base PS4. It's basically that the Slim PS4 is like smaller, kind of, and I think it has like well, you can get editions that have more storage, but I don't know all the differences between the two. But I decided to get it because originally I got a PS4 and it was something that was shared, and then I eventually got my own PS4, so I went with the Slim PS4, which looking back, I think came out the same year as PS4 Pro, so I should have maybe got the PS4 Pro version. But yeah, the PS4 Slim, I was able to use HDR in a lot of games, which is really nice because it makes the colors more vibrant. On a 4K TV, you can do that, which is really nice. So, just some bonus stuff I wanted to mention and put in this PS4 review that I forgot about. Sometimes, I forget about things. I do all my videos, one take type of thing. I don't use scripts. It's just not natural for me. So, yeah. So, yeah, overall, I would say PlayStation 4 is a pretty good system, and I did like it. Really good console overall, and I'd like to eventually get the PS5 so I could play a lot of these PS4 games on my PS5. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good system overall, and I do enjoy it. Great system, great controller, and a lot of those games I have, I enjoyed on it and played, and they looked real nice on PS4. And yeah, that's my overall opinion and review of the system. Maybe I'll review some more consoles in the future, but just thought about doing this because I did play the PS4. So let me know in the comments what you think of the PlayStation 4. And yeah, now where would I rank the PS4's PlayStation systems? I'm not entirely sure. You know, would I put it over PS2? I don't really know about that. PS2 had a lot of amazing games on it, so I don't know if I'd put it over PS2, but it is still a pretty good PlayStation system, I will say that. But that's it for this video. Peace out.